There is no need to be afraid, little flock, for it has pleased your Father to give you the kingdom. This announcement by Jesus, while amongst many of the profound statements that he would make to his disciples, seems to be one of the more powerful statements that he would give to them. He set out to endeavour to energise and empower them to become active and effective ministers of the kingdom in the world. There's no need to be afraid, he said to them first of all. Be confident in your own ability. Be aware that God has given you all that you require to be those active and effective ministers of the kingdom in the world. So do not be afraid. That was indeed one assuring thing to say to his uncertain disciples. But then his next few words spoken to them were even more amazing. To reassure these men and women who had chosen to follow him into mission and ministry, Jesus told them that they had the power of God within their lives. For it has pleased your Father to give you the kingdom, he said to them. No ifs or buts, no conditions set upon them for this gift from God. It was simple gift. And it was this very gift of the kingdom for which we all strive within our lives, that God had given to the disciples. Given to those who chose to walk the way of discipleship. As these disciples followed Jesus in his life and ministry, he was given, the kingdom of God was given to them. It's given to all of us today who also to continue to live out our call to discipleship. God has gifted us. We have those gifts and talents that was required to make the kingdom effective in the world today. So because of that unconditional gift of the kingdom given to us from our God of love, we now are kingdom people. Today we have the opportunity to use our gifts and our talents to bring that kingdom to birth by the actions of our lives. So that was the promise of the kingdom given to us by our God of love. But there were other things that Jesus had told his disciples that day as he spoke to them of God's actions in their lives. You do indeed have the promise of the kingdom, he said to them. But at the same time, with that promise of the kingdom, there is also a challenge. It was perhaps that Jesus could see that here were disciples who could indeed accept the challenge of entering into the life of the kingdom for the world by their willingness to become kingdom people, those people who were so necessary to bring the kingdom to birth in the world. They had the promise of God that the kingdom was indeed given to them. And now, as kingdom people, they were also presented with that challenge. Be kingdom people, Jesus said, by the action of your lives. They had shared his life and his ministry. They'd been influenced by all that Jesus himself had said and done. And it was through that experience that each of these disciples then shared in that relationship and the proclamation of the kingdom. They would enter a little more deeply into their mission and their ministry. Be prepared for the ministry, he would say to them. Be dressed and ready for action. Have your lamps lit. This is the role of those who choose to become kingdom people. The early disciples had indeed been empowered by Jesus himself and by the power of that kingdom of God given to them so freely. They would enter into their own mission and ministry, and by the action of their lives, they would make the kingdom a reality in the world. This challenge that had been presented to those early disciples, to be dressed and ready for action with lamps lit to see by, is a challenge given to us as well today. We don't know where or when the kingdom of God will burst in on us. It may be in the second watch that it happens, or in the third, as Jesus had told his disciples. But when the kingdom comes to us, it's important for us to be ready to respond. Perhaps to respond to the needs of the people who do indeed come to us. That's the role as kingdom people that we undertake. I was thinking the other day that the telephone is an amazing instrument. And every time I answer my phone, there's every chance that it is announcing the arrival of that kingdom of God through the person who calls me from the other end. They may need some sort of support, either financially or pastorally, and they call, seeking that assistance. We all have those phone calls within our lives, where we too can be challenged to become that kingdom person that flows out of our own sense of mission and ministry. People call us, and people may seek to uncover that power and presence of God by our response to them. That's what happens when we choose to become kingdom people today. Once again, it may happen at an hour we do not expect, but we are meant to be signs of that kingdom. By our response to the ones who call us, we show the presence and the power of God. It may have been for this reason that Jesus, his initial statement to the disciples was simple. Do not be afraid, little flock. We have the kingdom in our lives, and by our sense of ministry, we proclaim the kingdom to all we meet. So be prepared. Be willing to take a chance, to use our gifts and our talents, and to proclaim the kingdom by our lives. And when we choose to act, grounded upon God's kingdom in our world, we will be successful.